Hello, and welcome to a brand new, all upbeat, not talking about Ukraine episode of Loathsome Things, a horror movie podcast. I am here. My name is Josh. I am your host. Also here, also your host is John. John, how are you on this fine podcast recording day?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about this delightful movie and not to talk about Ukraine.
Yeah.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm also excited to talk about this marvelous movie and to not talk about Ukraine.
Excrement.
Yes. John, what are we watching today and why are we watching it?
Oh, man. Well, today we are watching a film that was made in 2018 by a director who his name's Gareth Evans. He's probably best known for the Raid movies.
Yes.
Which are, all Indonesian cast, if I remember, or primarily. And it's just a bunch of guys raiding basically a high-rise building that's taken over by a bunch of criminals, and they just battle their way up floor by floor, and it's amazing.
Yes, and if you mean a bunch of guys battling their way up, if by that you mean mostly just one dude.
That's right. Yeah. It's been a while.
It's a SWAT team that has to go in, and it's a high rise, and every level is just full of like criminals and drug addicts and just and at the very top of the building is the crime lord, and his whole deal is at a certain point in it is, they're raiding us, whoever kills them all gets free rent for life, and so this dude is in there. And it's a great movie. It is just amazing. And Gareth Evans made a sequel to it. It's also really good. It's a little bit sillier. It involves a guy that his kung fu move is hitting a baseball with a baseball bat at people. It's like, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? And there was going to be The Raid 3, but there were production delays, and Gareth Evans eventually got bored with the idea. He was like, I'm working on Apostle now. I don't really feel like going back to The Raid, but they had signed up Tony Jaa to be in that movie. And it was going to be very, very exciting. But no, we got Apostle basically instead of The Raid 3, which I'm okay with that, kind of.
Yeah, and speaking of Apostle, that's the movie we're going to be talking about.
That's true, yes, not The Raid.
What else did Gareth? He did the Safe Haven segment of VHS 2. I was trying to remember which one that was.
Yeah, me too.
You remember that one?
No.
I could look it up, but yeah, fuck it.
No. All of those. I love like the VHS movies, the ABCs of horror, all of those. We keep Southbound. We keep seeing those crop up in the list of credits. And I'm always like, I don't remember that one. If it's not scary, then I don't know what it's talking about.
There were some great ones. I don't remember if this was one of them. So there you go. I guess he was working on another movie with Timothy Olyphant and Tom Hardy and Forrest Whitaker, Crazy Eyes Whitaker.
Yep, called Havoc. And also that one's scheduled for this year, as well as a movie called Undying Love, which is an adaptation of a graphic novel about an ex-soldier who falls for a vampire. And in order to be with her, he must take on her creator, who is protected by an army of monsters in the Hong Kong underworld. So basically The Raid, but with vampires.
Yeah, that's right. The basement raid.
Yeah.
That sounds good. I'll watch it.
What if this time they had to go down?
Oh man, it's gonna be revolutionary.
Let's see. This movie stars Dan Stevens, who you'd probably know from the Marvel series Legion on FX. Kristine Froseth, who stars in Frank Calfun's Prey, which is a pretty good little horror movie. I think that's the one where the girl is stuck on the deserted on an island with a monster, but I might be getting that confused.
Okay.
Yeah, there's Mark Lewis Jones, who is just great in this movie. He's not from anything in particular. He's just a bunch of awesome dudes and a bunch of awesome things.
Is he the giant ginger?
Yes, Mega Ginger. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. In this movie is, I guess, rising star Lucy Boynton. It looks like after this movie, she's getting more and more famous and getting bigger and more important roles. So that's cool.
That's the redhead, right?
Yeah, Andrea, I believe. Yeah. She's gorgeous. Great in this movie. They're all really good in this movie.
Yeah, it's well acted for sure.
Yeah. And of course, the cod piece of this entire endeavor, we have the incomparable Michael Sheen holding it down.
Fucking love Michael Sheen.
He is great in everything, and he is great in this.
He looks like if you took you and combined you with me, you would have Michael Sheen.
And we both lost weight.
And we both lost weight and learned how to act.
Yeah. Had a really, really attractive Welsh accent.
This is basically what we're doing right now is a really terrible version of the TV show that they did with David Tennant.
Yes. Yes. Oh, shit. I can't remember what it's called, of course.
I know. I can't either. It is so good.
Oh, it's called Staged.
That's right. That's right.
Go watch Staged. And also go watch Gareth Evans's Apostle.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're going to talk the balls off of it.
Yeah. Like we're going to talk about how Michael Sheen's most interesting acting choice in this movie is how he holds the stick with his hand in a way that it looks the most uncomfortable.
That's correct.
Yeah. You really want like those splinters going right into the webbing of your finger. Yeah.
Right where it hurts the most.
So go watch it. I think we both would agree it's worth watching. And that's all that needs to be said about that before we spoil the fucks.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But anyways, so we discover at the beginning the main character's name is Thomas, and we discover that his sister Jennifer has been taken by some sort of a cult. And they've sent this like ransom letter, basically warning, don't send the police, don't, they're their own little world out here. And so they're basically asking for a ransom because their father is super rich.
Mm.
And Thomas looks like he just pulled his head out of the devil's asshole. So clearly Thomas has had a rough go of late. And the father is clearly quite disappointed in him. So this is like his chance for redemption. He's going to go rescue his sister. Well, he kind of volunteers himself, doesn't he, too?
I don't know. It's kind of confusing. This movie is definitely a movie that you have to pay very careful attention to, because if you don't, you'll have no idea what's going on. So
there's a plot. Yeah.
Yeah. So at points, like there are still a few things in this movie that I'm not quite clear on.
This movie is like the Shakespeare of The Ritual.
Yes. Yeah. With very strong acting, Shakespearean level acting. Also,
fantastic. Yeah.
Also some elongated passages of it's kind of boring.
A little bit. It drags a little bit at times.
Yeah.
And also they look like they're living on the set of like the movie Popeye with Robin Williams mixed with like some sort of gold rush Western movie from like the 50s.
Yeah. There it is. It's Popeye's Hatari.
It was just like, where is this place exactly? And why are all the boards so shiny?
Yeah. It's quite a set design. It's I really like that. On top of the like intense set design, there's this whole like focus of him making a map of the whole town, and it's like there is no way you needed that.
His map, it's got like 4 circles on it. Those are all the buildings.
Yeah. Oh, now I know how to get around.
The map that he never uses.
Yeah, the map that he created from memory so that he could reference it later for no reason.
So that it could half hang out of the drawer later for the guys to find immediately.
Yep.
Like, okay, that's fine, whatever. So we see on the mantelpiece at his father's place. His father's a complete ass face.
Oh yeah.
The power of his resurrection lies in the touch of his suffering.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's, and oh yeah, stay hidden among his, why am I doing this? I don't know.
It's good.
Stay hidden among his flock, but do not pay the ransom until you see her alive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And so that dude's the father, or is the crumpled waif in the other room that is no longer speechable is like,
maybe that's the father.
Yeah.
Is that the father? And that other guy is like his spokesperson or something?
Like his conservator or so, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
His father is Howard Hughes, and then it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest.
It really doesn't, because they never come back into the story.
Nope, he just wants to rescue his sister. That's all you really need to know.
Yep.
And then so quickly you see him. He's got some sort of a drug addiction. He's got a little dropper. His hair's cut now. He looks more presentable, but oddly troubled at all times. He's got that.
Yes. Yeah. He is Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens is good at face acting. The character that he's portraying, Thomas, cannot hold it together at all at any point. He's just the most suspicious looking.
He is incredibly suspicious. It's so ridiculous. So yeah, what better way to get ready to go rescue your sister than to like do droppers full of laudanum, I assume is what that was. Or
it's probably morphine or something. Yeah.
We find out later why he's a drug addict and why he's a ne'er-do-well.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Why he has fallen from grace, basically.
Yes, exactly. So he basically knows his sister's been taken. He's going there. It's some sort of weird cult, and that he needs to basically, hide among these people and try to act like one of them. Really not a lot to go on, to be honest.
Yeah.
So when they arrive at this grungy port, which looks like the City of Lost Children movie, and
yes.
Check. And there's no heathen souvenirs allowed, no trinkets, no doodads that remind you of your life back on the heathen mainland.
No books,
the king's mainland. No books, no nothing. And so they're waiting in line to basically get checked through the Ellis Island of hell. And he realizes, oh shit, I don't have the right magic ticket.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be able to get in. They're going to catch me. And so in one of many Deus Ex Machina moments in the movie, this old idiot just happens to like, oh, this would be a great moment for me to completely reshuffle all the contents of my suitcase. Because I guess he didn't have his ticket out, or so. I know he did have it out.
No, he did. So that's how he saw that there's like a red smudge on his ticket and no one else has a red smudge on theirs.
That's right.
And so I guess it's when they're declaring, hey, get all of your heathen souvenirs out of the way. That guy's like, oh, I better de-souvenir my briefcase. And so he like opens it up and is like taking out his abhorrent books. And
Flashlight.
Playgirl magazines. And so Dan Stevens, or Thomas, goes and is like, oh, here, let me help you out, brother, and does a little switcheroo where like, here, I'll pretend that this is your ticket. And so now the guy that he helped has his red smudge ticket and he's got the normie one.
So now it's all as well. He gets back in line. Welcome. What does he say? Welcome aboard. Welcome, brother.
Yeah.
And then gets him on the boat, and then he turns around to look, like just very obviously turns around to look. It's like, dude, you're not, for people that are clearly suspicious of outsiders, you're not doing a good job of like ingratiating yourself among them.
He's just sitting there, watching it happen.
Watching as the guy like takes the old man's card, looks at it, goes, welcome, brother, and then puts a little white chalk X on the side of his suitcase.
He's like,
yeah, this isn't going to end well for this old dick. So they walk their way out. They get on these little smaller rowboats, and that takes them into the bay up to the island. And one of the ladies on the boat is, she doesn't recognize him from the prayer meeting. So there's like this weird encounter between the two of them. And then we see like there's this bit where like this water like washes over the boat, and there's a lamb kept over, because you just keep lambs on your boat. You got to keep a lamb. And so it knocks the lamb out of its little lamb cubby, and Thomas like grabs it like to put it back or rescue it or whatever. And this old dude is like takes the lamb away and just shoots it down the boat into the ocean.
Yeah, shuffleboard style.
It's just like it's so wrong. And Thomas is like, oh my God. And what's the guy say? Let the if it's God's will, we should not interfere, or something like that.
Yeah, and it sounds like a Bible quote, but it's like obviously not a Bible quote.
Yes, it's clearly not this guy just hates lambs.
Fuck that noise.
Fucking lamb. So they that's right. So they head on, they head over there, and you see them as they come over the ridge. It's like Crossy Island. Like there's crosses everywhere, and they have the gang line up, and they're being checked for, they're like checking their tongue and looking in their eyes to see, I guess, if they're bringing some obvious disease with them or something.
Yeah, very obvious. Let me check your tonsils. Let me check your eye mucus. All right, you're good.
We're done. So Thomas, he passes this check, even though he probably had the glassiest eyes, I would imagine, if he's all hopped up on juice. But and then he starts chatting with this kid, Jeremy, and he finds out, you find out really quickly that Jeremy's got a crush on this girl, Fionn.
Yeah.
Fionn. With 2 F's.
Fionn.
2 F's.
Yeah.
And then we see this gigantic, like lurky, suspicious ginger guy who turns out to be Quinn.
Oh, and
yeah. Who also turns out to be Fionn's father, which, all of this is going to end really well.
It's going to be good. He's so sweaty, like always sweaty on the neck, and just like,
sweaty on this cold, wet island. And then Thomas meets Andrea, who happens to be the daughter of the guy that basically like runs the island, Malcolm. And she's super good looking. Yeah. And they obviously hit it off right away. And clearly this is also going to end really well.
Oh, yeah. What could go wrong?
So he sees like she had some kind of smudge on her face, and he takes his handkerchief out to wipe it off.
Yeah. I think it was blood.
Was it blood? And then she says, don't tell, or something like that. It's like, tell who? Tell them what?
Yeah, I think part of it was that he met her. Didn't he meet her and they're on their way to church, and she's like late to church? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't blood. Maybe it was cum. I don't know. It could be anything.
I thought it was lipstick. I'm like, what is she, like, making out with the lipstick lady or something?
I could see her making out with the lipstick lady.
Yeah. So I'll just go with she didn't want anybody to notice that she was late, which is fine because nobody cared anyway.
Yeah.
And he was late and nobody said a word.
Yeah.
So he goes into the church. He joins the group. They're all having their service. Up at the front is Michael Sheen, delivering his extremely dramatic service, doing the whole fire brimstone-y type business. And so then we see, like, we see somebody pass by the window, and then Thomas notices, and it's like this old lady, and Malcolm sees as well and realizes that nobody else obviously sees her except these two. So now he's on Michael's radar, on Malcolm's radar.
Yeah.
And then he goes on and talks about how the goddess has chosen him as her voice, that, he's going to be her representative on the island. And if I understood it, he arrived there because they were shipwrecked. Is that what happened?
I think so. Yeah. It was Malcolm and Quinn and Jeremy's dad, the other one. Was it Frank? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a big storm and they end up on this island, apparently.
Yeah, the three of them end up there and discover the business. They even have their own Bible, you see, where it's like the Book of Malcolm or something like that.
Yeah, the Book of Malcolm.
It's like very overly decorative, and like it's got the leather pressed over wood so that it has shapes and everything. It's very nice.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that they were able to gild their own Bible on an island that has nothing.
Yeah.
So then like later on at some point, Thomas spots this, like, I don't know if he sees it, but he's looking down the hallway in this building and you see like this melty moss, like it's doing like the honeydew decay thing. It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, this is a very honeydew movie.
Yeah. They don't really explain it, but obviously there's something going on with the goddess and all this business. And then we've cut to, they've got the old man who, with his hat off, looked about 15 years younger. At first I thought it was someone else.
Yeah.
And they're torturing this guy. He's got like cuts and blood and he's all banged up and terrified. And Malcolm, who obviously is the intelligent one, figures out right away that this isn't he suspects they have an intruder and this is not the one.
Mm-hmm.
That this is, this guy got duped by the intruder. So, since he's innocent, he didn't do anything wrong, so they slit his throat.
Yeah. And Malcolm's real sad about it. He's like, I'm so sorry. I promised you that you were coming to paradise, and here you are suffering. And then it's done.
And then he looks at the other guy and gives him that look like it's time.
Yeah.
Slash his throat. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And Thomas had seen them earlier. Whenever he was going into the church, he saw the like local brute squad, which just looked like everyone else, but they have like leather ponchos or whatever and little billy clubs. And he saw them dragging him into the room into the one house where only bad things happen.
That's right.
Yeah. And so this is after the sermon. Malcolm and company go in there and lay down some law.
Those guys are all like jackbooted with leather, and they look like, cast of like, I'm trying to think of some other, what's the like steampunk. They look like steampunk guys.
Yeah. Steampunk bad guys.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Then the movie switches and we now go to Jeremy and Fionn, who are fucking in a rowboat. It's like, oh, okay. Wow. Well, maybe this is just that kind of an island. Turns out, no, it's not that kind of an island.
Not that kind of an island, but I'm sure that she didn't get pregnant.
Nay, of course not. Thomas, it's at night. He starts snooping around on all of the islanders. He sees them cutting their arms and bleeding into their receptacles. That was one of the things whenever they were standing in line.
Well, that's right.
They were like, here, get your squish of bread and your receptacle. And it's just a jar. And it turns out that everyone has a jar to bleed in. Gross.
Yeah.
He also sees that Malcolm has a secret basement, and he's like, ooh, I want to go in there and see what's in Malcolm's secret basement. Maybe it's my sister. And while he's sneaking around, he bumps into Jeremy and Fionn as they're coming back from fucking. And then now he's got this like, hey, Jeremy, you're my dude now. We are now dudes. Everything's okay as long as we stay dudes, Jeremy. And after he's done sneaking, he goes back to his room. He sees that outside of each door in the hallway is a jar full of blood, and there's his jar, and it's outside of his door and it's empty. So he goes and pours out some of his neighbor's jar blood into his jar, and goes to unlock the door, and there's like a sharp thorn on the key, cuts his thumb, drips some blood onto the floor, and then as he goes inside, we see the old lady from the window from earlier underneath the floorboards lapping up his dropped blood like just a crazy person.
So disgusting.
She's really, really getting after it.
Like, wow, she really likes that blood.
Man, that floor looks like it's having a great time.
Also, what is with the spiky key? I didn't understand the spiky key.
I think it's just there to make it easier to bleed, I guess.
I guess that's what they use.
Yeah, if you're in Hotel Bloodiflornia, then everyone gets a spiky key. But it also doesn't. I don't understand how mobile she is.
I don't either, because half the time she's stuck in branches.
Yeah,
she's and the other trapped. Half she's running through Meat Gulch.
yeah, just chasing him around in the doo-doo chute.
Oh man, just packed full of bones and living chicken and gelatin.
But at this point, I do want to mention the soundtrack for this movie is intense. We even get it in the opening credits. There's like this whole thing where he's reading the letter that he had been sent about his sister, and it's very Ken Burns documentary style writing. And then as soon as it's over, it's like, like it's that foghorn style of horror soundtrack that we're getting a lot of now, where like part of it is the sudden onset foghorn noise, or then the sudden cut out choir noise, things like that. It's very that. It's kind of maybe getting a little bit cliche at this point, but I'm still enjoying it. And this is also from like 5 years ago, so it's fine.
That's true. What was the fucking movie with Leo DiCaprio where like the people enter in that alternate world or reality where the scenery can like fold in on itself and all that shit?
The one that everyone loves talking about how much they love.
I fucking hated that movie. Yeah. One of the reasons why I hated that movie is because they use that through the whole movie, and it's so loud I couldn't hear what the people were saying.
Yep.
Just see lips moving. It's just it's like, wow, I really wish this movie had subtitles.
Yeah. Apparently that's a huge problem in movies right now. Is there lots of movies where it's very hard to understand what they're saying, and I do hate that.
I used to have this surround system, like when that was like the thing to get the multi-speaker surround sound system for watching movies and shit.
Yeah.
But mine was clearly made by an idiot, because like whatever channel the vocals went to was too low. So in order to hear what they were saying, you had to turn it up obscenely loud. But then all the music was so loud, you would like shit your pants. And so it was like, it was just useless. I couldn't use it.
Yep. Yeah. It's amazing that they have all of this entertainment technology that is so cheap that it actually makes it worse. I have a 55-inch 4K TV, but it's not the real legit 4K where everything's crisp. It's that really shitty, cheap, like Walmart brand type of 4K, right, where technically it's 4K, but you can't see anything. It's just a big dark blur.
It's literally 4K. 4 bytes.
4QUE question mark.
4 1,000ths of a byte.
Yeah. At this point, Thomas draws a map of the village for no reason other than for people to find it later. We find out from exposition that the crops are failing, that the animals aren't producing healthy offspring, and that the reason that they kidnapped Thomas's sister is for her rich father's money. We get all of this while Quinn, the big mega ginger, and Malcolm, who is Michael Sheen, are helping give birth to a lamb that is all fucked up. It is born with like gills or something.
Yeah, it's gross.
And they're like, oh, well, this one's fucked up. And Malcolm says to Quinn, she will give us another pure harvest, have faith. And then Quinn disposes of the lamb by dunking it ass first into water, and that somehow kills it. It's like, oh no, my ass is wet. I can't breathe through my ass now.
The gilled lamb apparently dies if its ass touches water.
Yeah. And this is one of the very many we had the lamb earlier, the one that they threw overboard. Now we've got this one, and it keeps going where we get like weird animals being killed in unconvincing ways. It's a strange theme in this movie, but you know, whatever. And then they realize, they've got the intruder because they killed old Switchy from the beginning of the movie. But they don't know who it is now because he did the switcheroo, and they know it's one of these new arrivals. So they have a lineup of suspects in the church, and they're testing them. And the way that they're testing them is by having them all quote, like Jacob Jingleheimer style, where like the guy at the front begins the Bible quote from their very specific non-Bible Bible. And then he's like, all right, now stop. And then the next guy has to continue the quote, and it's getting down towards Thomas. And Thomas is like, oh, shit.
His name is my name too.
And lucky for Michael, the guy right before him is hiding a knife in his pants and also doesn't know the quote. And so he that guy pulls out his knife and is like, for England or whatever, and tries to attack Malcolm. And so Thomas is like, my opportunity. And he restrains the guy, gets cut across the chest very dramatically. And then all of the goons who had been, I guess, standing by with spears just skewer this assassin in the weirdest way. It's very intense. Their spears all plunge directly through him. But then he's pinned to the floor somehow, standing up, but not by any of the spears. There's one spear that went through his leg and into the floor, but it doesn't really look like he should be standing up. But he gurgles to death while holding the knife out, and then something like, you're a bunch of assholes, I hate you, and then he dies. And then they notice Thomas is on the floor, and he's bleeding, and he's whining way too much because it's a little scratch. He's got a little scratcheroo. He hasn't been stabbed. He has been cut. He has a cut. He has a boo-boo. And they're like, get him to the emergency now. And so they rush him to Dr. Andrea. And Malcolm's all intense, and he's cutting his hand. He's like, you bled for me, I'll bleed for you, brother. And it's so Saving Private Ryan-y, and the whole time Thomas is just like, what? Oh, cool. It's exactly according to plan.
And it's that Hollywood thing where anytime somebody does a blood, let's be blood brothers, they always they're like, hey, I've got an idea, let's be blood brothers. And they pull out this machete. It's always the biggest fucking knife you can, and they're like slash their whole arm. Every time in a movie they do that. Malcolm did the same thing. He palmed a fucking steak knife.
Yeah.
And then just gutted his entire palm wide open.
Yeah, gave himself obviously permanent nerve damage. There's no way he's going to be able to feel all of his fingers after that.
He severed all of his tendons just so he could get a little blood out.
Yeah. It's never the little red $1 gas station knife that also has a toothpick in it. It's always the big deboning knife.
Or the diabetes thing where it's a tiny little poke and then you bleed 10 gallons.
Yeah. She's BB King. We're blood brothers now. But yeah, so now Thomas is beloved by by Malcolm, and by Malcolm's daughter Andrea, who stitches him up real nice.
He stitched him up real good. She's really nice. She even gives him some extra eyedropper Uwais.
Oh yeah, and it really doesn't have any bearing on the story. The whole eyedropper of Uwais.
It just happened to have Uwais laying around.
Yeah, later on he gives himself a quit, and it's fine.
Yeah, it's just, okay, whatever. That whole part was just didn't really matter at all.
Yeah,
so whatever. But so now his sister Jennifer, they've got her chained in the town square after Malcolm scream threats his way through town, asking for the intruder to come out, demanding that the intruder come out and save the sister. So he obviously knows that this person is there for her, and I know it's a shock, but nobody comes out. And then they showed Thomas like in his room, just like, he trashes his Huis bottle for no reason. It's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But never goes through withdrawals or anything, or, you know, that, and that's just the end of the Huis part of the movie.
Yep. No more Huis.
And then they tear out like a chunk of her hair out of Jennifer's hair. And then like they had these kids, like the local kids are coming up and poking her with sticks, and one girl's
braiding her hair.
Yeah, she's like, God, what is wrong with these fucking people?
They have no fun on this island.
God, yeah, it's just ridiculous. And then the next morning, like, you know, they show Jennifer like she's just laying on the ground in the square, like they just left her there overnight. And God, it was so weird. But Andrea like shows up and let's see the kids are acting like dicks. Ginger, we cut to Malcolm and Ginger talking about like lack of resources and, you know, how the situation's getting dire because the crops aren't growing or whatever. Then we cut back and Andrea shows Jennifer some mercy and gives her a blanket and, you know, tells her that nobody's going to hurt her anymore, which is of course not true.
Super not true.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then the goons take her away, and Thomas and Jeremy see this, and they're like working on the roof of some building, and Thomas tells Jeremy, "Be ready." And then we cut to Fionn, who is in her cabin, whatever, it looks disgusting. Outhouse. She's in the outhouse. That's right. And she's checking out the vajayjay with a mirror.
Yeah.
I guess to see if there's like a baby up in there. I don't know what she's not exactly sure what she's looking for, but
it feels so pregnant down there. What's going on?
It's just great. Of course her dad spots this.
Yeah.
Because all the buildings on this island have giant holes in the walls that you can just look right through.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, it's not that he just like noticed it in glancing. He is like leering. Yeah.
Yes. He's full on watching his daughter. I assume in his mind was probably going to drop a deuce. I don't know.
I guess so. What is she doing in there? Pooping?
It's like what this is okay. It's like whatever. We'll just let that go. So now he knows. So you know that can't be good. And then they cut to this like shindig, this like dance festival thing where Andrea explains to Thomas, well, what, you don't like to have fun or something like that. And there's that great shot before where he sees that kid in the hallway, like the end of the long hallway with the mask on. Yeah, it's all creepy looking, and then he pretends to pull out like a gun and shoot the kid, and the kid like fakes being hit and then laughs and runs away. And then he runs away. Like, okay, whatever.
It's supposed to reflect earlier in that hallway shot, like we could see the goddess at the back of the hallway watching him while he was looking at jars full of blood. And then now that thing's there. And so we're supposed to be like, oh, but it's nothing.
Yeah, it turns out it's just a cool shot that had no reference to anything.
Yeah. So
then they're at this thing. They're being kind of flirty with each other. And great. And then Thomas and Jeremy, they do this. They break off and they go under. What is it? Under this building, and they're going to try to break in through the floor, like under the floorboards or something like that. I think is what it was. I think it's Malcolm's house, and so they go into the crawl space underneath it, and Malcolm's basement area, instead of it being planks of shiny wood, is planks of bricks and mortar made out of cake and icing, you know. That's right.
And so they're gonna go in there and hammer their way into the brick basement.
So there's like this really awkward scene where Thomas is listening to the rhythm of the drums and the music at the festival so that he can time his hammer blows to the music. But it goes on for way too long. It's like, man, this dude has no rhythm at all.
And Jeremy is even like, are you going to do it? He's like, oh, and it was like just as he was about, like he was getting the rhythm down. He's like, yeah, dun, 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 Are you going to do it? God damn it, Jeremy.
And when he goes to hammer it, he just goes, bah, 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 bah. It's like, okay.
It's not going to fool anyone.
Yeah, that was it's like, okay, whatever. And then and then they cut to Malcolm and Quinn, and the goons are searching. They're searching Thomas's cabin, and that's when they find the map just half hanging out of a drawer. Yeah. And they figure out very quickly that Thomas is in the secret cellar under Malcolm's floor, or at least the cellar that you get into from Malcolm's floor. And then Jeremy's dad, Frank, basically finds him and tells him to get the fuck out of there. Because Jeremy's still under the building. And like Frank grabs his ankles and pulls him out, like, aha, oh shit.
God damn it, kid, get out of here. Yeah. What the hell?
Like at the last possible second. And then in the meantime, these guys decide they're gonna have this plan that they're gonna flush Thomas out of there. And now Andrea is now eavesdropping through a hole in the wall somewhere.
Yes.
So Thomas gets down into this, like, it's like the sewer of this place, but the sewer looked like it was filled with like liquid meat mush.
Yeah.
It was like red and like looked like shit and meat.
Yeah. And also like
disgusting.
Yeah. Like what if you spray painted styrofoam so that you would have chunks that always floated on the top, like you're in a trash compactor in Star Wars? Yes.
That's right. And then he discovers that he's not alone. Well, he's not alone. He discovers there's a chicken down there that's alive that freaks all the way out when he passes by it. And then he sees the chicken, like, well, I thought he passed by the chicken, but anyways, the chicken's in front of him, and you see the chicken go, "Pop," and then pulled down under the muck, and he realizes he's not alone down there. And then up pops the goddess, and she's
chasing him around in the shit.
He's slow chasing him through shit gulch. So he's like very slowly crawling backwards, and he gets through some hole in a wall, and she's just gone.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's like nothing ever happened. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, and where he escapes to, it's a cave full of like really cool cave paintings.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're supposed to be like from the people that lived there before, maybe, unless it was like, this is where Andrea goes to draw. I don't know. But it's very the Empty Man style of cave painting. Very cool, enjoyable to see. And then it takes us over to where Malcolm is now in a different part of the basement area where the goddess is. And we see now that the goddess is enthroned and trapped in all of these roots that go everywhere, and she can't get out. She's basically on like root life support, folk horror life support. And he's like cutting his hand to feed her mouth with his hand blood. And we're also introduced to a guy that I believe is technically called the Grinder, but I call him Baseball Head because he looks like if you take the rawhide off of a baseball, that's what his head looks like.
That's true.
And he is covered in blood and is not a person anymore. He's just kind of a meat servant for the goddess, or maybe for Malcolm. I'm not really sure. And the movie doesn't bother to ever explain that, which is fine. That's fine.
No, and he's the only like supernatural-ish minion that she has.
Yeah. It's the only supernatural things in this movie are her and Baseball Head.
Yeah. And
Baseball Head also, I guess he's supposed to represent, this movie is very into the boundary between nature and industry or technology. Mm-hmm. And he's like that one of those boundary things, because in addition to him being part of feeding this lady, he also, well, we'll get to that. He has toys.
He does. The Grinder has toys.
So while this is going on, basically like Malcolm's like threatening her, like, if you don't give us a pure harvest, we will starve you and you will starve and we'll just leave or whatever, but you'll be left here to starve by yourself or whatever. And it switches over, and now we see that Andrea has somehow found Thomas in his cave of many paintings, and she knew to bring him clothes. So she brought him clothes to change into that weren't covered in shit. And at this point, she sees a scar on his back, and it is a giant cross on his back, which pretty gross. At this point, we get him flashing back to whenever he was a missionary pastor in Peking during the Boxer Rebellion, where all of his flock of missionaries were slaughtered by the Boxers, and he was branded with a giant iron red hot cross instead of being killed. And apparently that was enough for him to leave the clergy and lead a life of drug addiction and face looking.
Yeah, doesn't he beg God to intervene? And then when nothing happens, I guess he loses his faith.
Yeah. Father, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah, now I have to drip hoist into my mouth and look like a hobo.
Yeah, now I'm a little CBD addict everywhere I go.
It's a tincture.
Yeah, trust in my self-righteous suicide. It's fine.
Whoa.
Yeah, it got chop suey in here. She takes him on a tour of the crop fields where he can see that all of the crops are rotting, a la honeydew. It's very, very fungusy looking and moldy and gross. Switch back to town where they are not knowing about any of this stuff. And Fionn is telling Jeremy that she's totes pregnard. He's happy and he goes to do something. Like, does he go to get her a gift? I don't know. He leaves. He's like, You're pregnant? Bye. I'll be right back. I swear. I just have to go get cigarettes. and so
I have to propel this story forward.
Yeah. He leaves, and then Quinn comes in, and apparently he overheard it or something.
Yes.
Somehow he knows, and Fionn and Quinn talk about it. He's very disappointed in his daughter, and he's like looming and saying that he's going to do something about it. And then by the time Jeremy gets back and he comes in, he sees that Quinn has performed a complete murder abortion where he just killed his daughter by aborting the fetus by stabbing her in the stomach over and over and over again and just like slicing her open.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, you don't even see it happen, but just seeing her laying there is brutal.
Yeah, yeah, it is an uncaring shot, and it's wow.
Yeah, he's a nuclear level bad person.
Yeah, exactly. And so Jeremy, being a fucking badass, immediately gets into a tussle with the dude. And even though this dude is like an entire tank of a human being, and Jeremy is just a little squirrel person, he's like holding his own hand. He even like slices Quinn's neck open with the knife that Quinn was holding. Mm-hmm. And but because Quinn is respected in the community, he makes it outside, calls for help, and then levels the finger at Jeremy and says, he murdered my daughter. And Jeremy's like, no, it's a lie. He's like, he did it, get him. And so Jeremy has to run away. Then Quinn starts telling everyone what to do. Like, hey, you have to get the sin forgiver or whatever it is that they call it. And they're like, you don't have the authority to do that. You're not Malcolm. And he's like, fuck you, I'm Malcolm now. So he's still there. He's like holding his neck together with his hand and staging a coup and like telling them to like murder Jeremy and all of this stuff. It's a pretty impressive piece of multitasking.
Yeah, I gotta hand it to him.
Yeah, and so they grab what I call the head can opener, which is it's a machine that they strap him down to. They vice his wrists, they vice his ankles, and then they vice his head. And we even get like one shot that's supposed to be from his perspective where like we hear a crunch and then we see blood go over the lens, and it's ugh. And then it's just a little twirly piece that goes into the skull, cracks it open, pulls a big old chunk out. And then you even see like the little bits of hair sticking to the sides of the can opener. And Quinn pulls out like a rose petal or something.
Yeah.
And shoves it into the empty brain hole as a symbol of purity. And there rests Jeremy.
Yeah, that was intense. I love the guys with the black coney hats.
Yeah.
They just look, that's such a great look.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, and I also like how they're doing this move right here.
Yes. Yeah. The triangle of overheld fingers.
Yeah, like the church steeple, and this is the church, and this is the steeple with the thumbs and pinkies, and then the other fingers interlocked. And then that guy reaches in and gives the what is he? Oh, he gives him pliers, like to put. It's like dirty pliers to put a rose petal in his brain hole.
Yeah,
it's so disgusting. And he doesn't just just barely put. He like sticks that thing all the way in there.
Oh yeah, he's going for the brain stem. Like that's where forgiveness lies.
Oh man, it's so good.
And I skipped over it pretty quick, but the fight scene between Quinn and Jeremy is like you're really getting a little piece of Gareth Evans's like the raid fight choreography in there, because even though it is brief, it is like instantly intense and like brutal all the way through, and then it's just over.
Yeah, that's true. He really does go. He's very good at directing violence.
Yes.
It definitely comes out there. So Frank has decided that he says she has to die. He's got a gun. I assume he's going for Andrea, if I remember correctly, because he wants to exact his revenge.
I think he's going for the goddess, because like at this point we've even seen we've seen like he had planned on leaving earlier, and Malcolm was like, "Nah, man, you gotta stay." Yeah. He's like the least into it of the three original dudes, and he's like, "Man, this place sucks now." He's like, "Nah, stick around. It'll get better."
Yeah, it'll get better, really. So yeah, he freaks out. She has to die, and then we see that Thomas has they had him like chained up, so he's watching all this stuff go on with Jeremy. So he breaks free with like spears, basically. Like he just murder attacks the guards that are holding him at bay with spears, and this like super masculine, like ultra spear festival. Like very, very quick burst of violence. Very cool. He takes off, runs into the woods, sees the goddess. She's out there tracking him. And in the meantime, we cut back to Frank, and he's like coming out of this house, and all of a sudden he gets shot. Well, he's been shot by a baseball head.
Yeah.
And
because baseball heads got toys. Like that thing has a gun. It has no eyes, but it can shoot a gun like hell.
And Thomas sees this, and baseball head can't see Thomas because he's kind of hiding on the side of the building. And Frank, as he's dying, tells him to burn it all down.
Yeah.
Which is, it kind of like echoes what the assassin had mentioned, that this place is going to burn, or you heathens are going to burn, or something like that.
Yep.
So Thomas runs over and hides real quickly under the house. There's like a crawl space under the house. And then he gets up in through the floorboards, because I guess baseball head is left at this point.
Yeah.
And he gets up into the house through the floorboards. And then we cut over, and Quinn is confronted by Malcolm, and they have this little bit of a standoff. And now apparently Malcolm's had a change of heart. Now he realizes that killing people and feeding them to the nettle witch is not a nice thing to do.
Yeah,
because apparently he's like had some sort of ethical outburst or whatever, and then Quinn shoots him. Yeah, and he falls through this hatch in the ground and lands at the bottom of the ladder. And so he leaves him for dead. Of course he assumes he's dead. Of course he's not dead. Spoiler alert. And then and then we cut to baseball head, who has this amazing like grinder table that like it's like what, like in every horror movie where there's like some sort of mechanism, like in the Funhouse, where but of course this one's designed specifically for torturing people or for killing people, but it's like two wheels basically with like big knobbies on them, and cranks it, and they roll together in like gears, and then as that's happening, it's pulling the victim. In this case, it happens to be Thomas towards the gears where they're going to get meat crushed and fed to the branch lady.
Yeah. Earlier we saw him doing it. I think it was Jeremy's body that we saw half ground up.
That's right.
He like takes big wads of the pulped ground up flesh puts it into like a oil funnel and like shoves that into the goddess's mouth so that she's just like drinking the fluid as it drains out of the pulp.
It's like, oh, good. The only piece of plastic on the island is the meat funnel for the goddess. It's so gross, just like handfuls of. It's so disgusting.
It's so gross. And we did skip over a spot before Quinn shot Malcolm. It's one of those little double barrel shotguns.
Oh, right.
The first shot, he tried to shoot Baseball Head for some reason.
Yeah.
He aimed it right at him and shot, and it just went wide. I guess like there's like a little magic force field around Baseball Head where he can't get shot or whatever. And after one shot, he was like, nah, I don't feel like trying to shoot him again. And then he shoots Malcolm instead.
He shoots Malcolm instead. It's like, I can probably actually shoot Malcolm, so I might as well.
I want to shoot someone.
So we get this, like, Thomas is struggling to get out from, under this thing. And he manages to, first he gets like one of his hands goes in the grinder thing. And he loses 3 of his fingers. So all he has is the thumb and the pointer.
Yes. The
bloody L stump.
Yeah, the shape of an L on her forehead.
But I guess it like gets his hand free, so he's able to, with his one remaining finger and thumb, he's able to unhook himself just enough to where he gets a hook, ultimately gets a hook into Baseball Head's head.
Yeah,
like where his doesn't have eyes would be, and hooks him, which I thought he was going to pull him through the thing, but instead he crushes his head with a giant weight, which I guess is the counterweight to pull people. I guess it looked like a giant brass ball or something.
Yeah, we thought we were going to get a really cool shot of Baseball Head getting pushed through his own grinder, but Gareth was like, nah.
Nope.
Okay.
You set the whole situation up and then you didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah. Counterweight, that'll be more fun.
I know. It's like, God damn it. Really? We're gonna do it?
Okay.
Yeah. But that happened.
Yeah. That's how it goes down. The goddess is super horny to meet Thomas. She does a whole like Vulcan mind meld thing with him where she shows him not her history, but specifically her history with Malcolm, where it's like, not like, hey, look at how cool I am. She's like, check out my relationship with Malcolm and these dudes. It's like, oh, okay. I guess we're white colonial focused still. I guess that makes sense.
Right.
And it switches between this and Quinn preaching to all the people. Wait, no. He's that's right. Quinn has taken Jennifer, right? Jennifer and Andrea, and he's locked them in a special rape room that he has.
Yeah.
It looks like a bathroom. It's like all white subway tile in there. And he's preaching to them about how it was all him the whole time and how it was actually him that figured out how to trap the goddess. And this is all being interspersed with her showing Thomas like how she used to be a free range goddess and now she's all trapped. And it shows him like slaughtering a very fake bunny rabbit and feeding the blood to her. And we find out that the goddess just wants to be set free, like put an end to. She wants it all to burn down. And all of this is going on while Quinn is doing his thing and he's talking to Andrea and Jennifer and telling them that his plan for them is that he's just going to rape them all the time. And whenever they get pregnant, he's going to feed their babies to the goddess and this will make things good again.
Yeah, the crops will just grow like crazy.
Yeah, it loves rape babies, does this goddess.
It's a remarkably terrible.
Yeah. He goes from being one of the bad guys to like the entire bad guy in this movie. Just the worst. We never get it explicitly stated that he wanted to fuck his daughter, but we got a very strong impression that his problem with all of this Jeremy business was that he wanted to fuck his daughter.
Yeah, and this is his big chance.
Yeah. Mom's spaghetti right here. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
If okay, a couple things. Okay, when they first see the goddess and she's like just huddled down on the ground with her shawl over her head or hooded or whatever.
Yeah.
And they find her and she looks up. They're from behind her, but we see her camera shot. She looks up and she like smiles like,
yeah. She's like, oh yeah, this is gonna go good.
Yeah, like, so she apparently doesn't have very good powers of foresight.
No, she might be a nearsighted goddess.
Okay.
She's like, and then, yeah, men.
And then also, if they figured out how to bind this goddess or how to trap her or whatever, how is she able to just occasionally get out and chase people through the poop tunnel or you know, like show up at the church window? Are they apparitions? I mean, I didn't understand that.
So yeah, it seems like that would be like her self-projecting visions out, but then also like, how was she lapping up the blood from the floorboard? Blord?
Yeah, the floorboard.
Yeah, florb.
Those kinds of things are weird, you know, and they can be distracting. Like in the ritual, there's, you know, that the Jotun is a shapeshifter, and it's like the movie just assumes that everyone watching the movie knows what a shapeshifter is. You know, I mean, most adults, if they like horror movies, kind of have an idea, but not enough to just assume that they know what a shapeshifter is. You know, like they could have played up on that a little bit more. I mean, it's obvious when Dom, is that his name? Dom sees what he thinks is his wife come out of the woods.
Yeah.
You know, and then it switches to him and it switches back and it's the fucking Jotun. I think it's pretty obvious that it's a shapeshifter. It's not like his wife ran away and that thing showed up in the second that we saw his fat face.
Yeah. But that's
I just
also,
wish there was a little more exposition maybe about it.
Yeah. But that was also like the only instance of the Jotun being a shapeshifter in that whole movie.
That's true. I guess I'm remembering that I read that it was known for being one.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking there should have been more, which I guess there wouldn't. You know, if they don't tell you that, then they can do whatever they want with the story. But then back to this one with the witch, it's like, or the witch, the whatever tree goddess witch person who blood field crop grows. I don't know what exactly.
Like fertility goddess.
Sure.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess she's able to like project her image or have some sort of effect, but not have full range of powers.
Yeah, it's not very clear. It is interesting. I'm not super hungry for the answers to it, but it is like, I feel like something's getting lost there. But
she's such a cool character that it would be it would be nice to have her fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's also, I guess, the way that the end goes, it begs a different question. So we'll get to it. So speaking of the Jotun, part of the thing is that she's begging him to end it. So he torches her. He starts burns her in effigy, starting with her, but it's going to spread, I guess, through the whole island and even the buildings that aren't made out of sticks. So he torches her. He says, "Forgive me," and then he's like running through the very pretty forest and sees Jotun effigies up in the trees, where like they're people way high up in the trees, stuck to the tree as a Jotun would do it in the movie The Ritual. And I don't know why that is.
Yeah, why would they? I mean, we know that they make sacrifices to her, but they do it to feed her, to maintain her being trapped. it's kind of like they flipped the script on the traditional, like Jotun type narrative, where there's some sort of a god and the people have made some sort of weird arrangement with it, where in exchange for some gift that really isn't a gift, they will, continue to feed this thing whatever it is that it likes. I guess in that case, fear, or pain. Sorry, suffering. But here it's like they flipped it around. Like they discover this elemental goddess that is basically the natural like expression of this island or whatever, and they trap her somehow. Even though if they had played ball with her in the first place, she probably would have worked out some sort of arrangement with them where their crops would remain. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think it's supposed to be like representative of the earth and them trying to harness the elements of the earth for industrial growth processes.
Man.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course it's not working, and what's coming out is rotten, and everyone's at each other's throats about it. Very symbolic. I guess does that like put this movie at a crossroads of folk horror and eco horror? Like, is this an eco horror movie?
It kind of is. It's kind of a Luddite movie almost. It's like a cautionary tale about the endless pursuit of technological advancement, regardless of the risk.
Yeah. Also, I have a question. Okay, so they have abandoned their belief in Bible God, and they have now transferred all of their beliefiness into pagan fertility goddess. Why are all of their other beliefs still just stuck in Christian, like puritanical, like don't be fucking? It seems like these people would all be fucking.
Yeah, they're not fucking because whenever they fuck and somebody gets pregnant, they give birth to a pulpy tomato.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
But the implication was that at some point these things weren't happening. But I guess they probably just means that they, in the short time that they've been there, because I don't think they've been there that long, it didn't take long before this horrible shit started happening, and they realized that, okay, the crops, we have the crops, but it wasn't long before. I don't know, because do they basically talk about how there's some turning point where the crops start dying, or is it just something that happens right away after they trap her?
Man, I don't know. That's good. I didn't get a firm timeline about things.
Yeah.
I
don't think they tell you.
Yeah, I don't think they do. So it could be like they got there and like day one it was bad. Like they got there and it was like the crops were good, but then like they reseeded and it was like the next harvest was already bad. I don't know. It's a good question though. But yeah, fuck them all.
We'll have to ask Gareth.
Yeah, Gareth. Come down from where you're not thinking about doing the Raid 3 and tell us about this other movie that you're probably bored of now.
This stepping stone movie you made.
Let's see. Thomas shows up apparently now, like everything's on fire. Like he lit a little fire on the goddess, but now everything is burning all the way to the subway tile she shed that Quinn has trapped the ladies in. It's burning on the outside. And Thomas shows up there. Somehow he knows to go there. I don't remember. Maybe like Malcolm shows him the way. I don't know. But Thomas and Quinn go in for an awesome Gareth Evans style brawl. It is brutal. It is slammy. And the whole time the ladies are chained to the wall. There's a shotgun involved. It doesn't have an effect, but then the ladies get it. And Jennifer's like trying to figure out how to shoot Quinn, but not her brother. And Andrea's like, oh, give it to me, you dumb bitch. She takes it and she shoots the chains off of the wall so that they can get free. They're fighting. It's not going Thomas's way. But then the ladies, like he stabs Quinn in the chest with a knife. And then Quinn is like actively like killing him, like choking him to death. And then the ladies wrap the chain around his neck and start tugging on him. And then Thomas grabs the knife sticking in his chest and just holds on while the ladies tug him the other direction and just cut his chest open like they are plowing a field. And it is so intense and brutal and amazing because Gareth Evans does one thing really well, and it is that.
Yeah, the movie really comes together when Gareth Evans just cuts loose.
Yeah, when he's like, okay, all right, great actors, I love it. Now let's really pour out some blood.
Yeah, very nuanced performance. And now we need what you, I think, referred to as a tug-o-gut.
Yeah, tug-o-gut. Yeah, it's great. So Quid's dead. The island is in a state of exploding. Everyone's getting away, I guess. And
there's even like a blood landslide in the cliff face of the ocean.
Yes. Yeah, it's very intense and I'm sure very symbolic. Jennifer and Andrea are getting away and they're like, come on, our boy, come on with us. And he's like, no, I'm tired now. Leave me behind. Because he's like all fucked up. I think he got like his shit cut open. Didn't he get?
Oh, that's right. He got gut shanked by Quinn about 15 times.
That's right. Yeah, he like got prison shanked by him. Yeah.
He was just tap.
Yeah. His entire situation is now perforated. And so he lays down on a scenic cliff face in the grass, and Malcolm shows up. They don't say a single word to one another, and Malcolm just hangs out near him as Thomas slowly dies, and then the plants, the grass around him slowly crawls into his skin, and we get an idea that he's going to be the new goddess of the island. Movie over.
I love the like embers floating through the air.
Yeah, it's really good.
The first time I saw the embers, I thought there was flies during the shooting. And I was like, oh, they must be using that corn syrup blood. And then I'm like, wait, those are embers. That was really well done.
Yeah. This movie is a huge departure from like The Raid and stuff like that. I mean, he's really good at directing this stuff. I don't know how much of this is his direction, but like all of the acting is just on point and dramatic. You said it Shakespearean. I hadn't thought of it, but it really gives that like air. Sometimes maybe the dialogue isn't up to that stuff, but other times it is, especially with Quinn and Malcolm. Like they are like so in it to be old Englandy style.
They're in it to win it in.
Yes, and then there are huge passages of just pure mind-numbing boredom, but then he reels you back in where like it's boring, and then all of a sudden something fucking awesome is happening.
Yeah, like you don't really care about Thomas, and you don't know his sister at all. Yeah. So other than feeling sympathy for someone who's clearly being treated like shit, you don't really have anything emotionally invested in her as a character. And that's the whole thrust of the movie. So, I think, and then it takes about 2/3 of the film before you even figure out, or before they tell you why Thomas is such a knob, which is kind of, it's like he loses his faith because he had a giant cross burned on his back during the Boxer Rebellion. Okay, that's fine. And becomes a drug addict, or all right, whatever, to deal with the pain of the burning and the existential dread or whatever. That's great, but it doesn't really matter. Like we got through almost the whole movie and no one was addressing why he was acting like, I mean, we the second we see him on screen, he's a loser.
Yes.
So who cares if he remains a loser or not? We don't need to know that he used to be a priest.
Yeah.
But maybe that lack of faith, or maybe that was supposed to tie into him being buttered, because he's like the chosen one from her. She's like excited that he's there when he first encounters her, the goddess, if I remember. I'm like remembering this now.
Yeah.
She's all
yeah. No, she's totally horny for Thomas, and it is like he is definitely the next chosen one. He's been chosen to take over for Malcolm, but also to take over for her, which
I think it is to take over for her. I think she's tired of being, maybe she was human at one point and she's tired of being the keeper of this fucking place and she wants someone else to do it. And she knows that he's the right kind of subject because of his faith.
Maybe that's why she was smiling when they first showed up and she was all berobed. Maybe she was like, well, none of these guys will do, but this one will at least do to get me over to the next guy that I need to show up.
This is the first step towards me getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah, because it really does seem like she's probably not a goddess. She's probably like the sacrifice that is now being inhabited by the spirit of the island or whatever.
Yeah, it's almost like the actual force that we're talking about is something intangible, that it manifests, and interacts with people in some way because it needs to or whatever.
It's very cool.
It is pretty cool, actually. It apparently required us to talk about it a little bit to flesh it out some, but it's a good idea. I mean, it plays well on screen anyway, so it's not like, but I've seen this movie several times, and like you, I mean, the first time I saw it, I liked it, but I had a lot of questions, like, what the fuck was this and that, and and now that we've both seen it repeatedly and discussed it for 2 hours, it's like starting to kind of make some sense.
Yeah, it was like whenever you suggested this movie, you're like, yeah, have you seen it? I was like, yeah, I had it on. I don't really like, all I remembered from the movie was the scene where the guy was getting his head cut open by the can opener. Like that was the only memory I had of it. And then whenever I watched it again, I was like, oh yeah, no, I remember all of this. I have no idea what it's about. And it really does. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say it's pretty much 3/4 of character drama.
Yeah. And it is strange because you mentioned it, like we don't really, it's hard to really give a shit about Thomas, like other than his great face acting. Like I loved the face acting there, but for Thomas's character is super uninteresting, and Jennifer's character is super uninteresting. They're just there to get us to the island where all of the good characters are.
Yeah, that's true. The Isle of Good Characters.
Yeah, so we've got the whole situation with like Jeremy and Fionn, who we're like instantly like into, like, yeah, the young people, their youth, they're in love, they're making babies, go, go, go. And then like Andrea's like, oh, my lord, must thou put a penis upon my vag? And then you've got Malcolm and Quinn.
Oh my god.
And they're all really great, and their interactions are really good. The dynamic, the little like social constructs that they put together, Frank, and the fact that he is like done with all of this. It's all great. I love all of it. But I feel like it's kind of like the opposite of the problem with the Empty Man. Like with the Empty Man, he was given free reign to make the full-length movie that he wanted. And I feel like this happened here too, but maybe it shouldn't have. Like, maybe this movie didn't need to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Yeah, it was too long.
Yeah, it was too long. Like we probably could have cut out the entire part, almost the entire part before they got on the boat. Like we could have started the movie at the shitty looking dock, like the Venetian dock, and like just picked it up from there, and we probably wouldn't have missed out on anything. And God, maybe the sister didn't, I don't know. The whole Boxer Rebellion thing was, I guess, neat if you're really into like, ooh, I specialize in the Boxer Rebellion, and it's fun to see that referenced in a movie. But it really feels like Gareth Evans learned what the Boxer Rebellion was and was like, oh, I'm totally putting that in a movie.
That's going in there.
Oh man. Kung Fu dudes mad at Christians, sign me up.
Gotta get Asian culture in here somehow. It's almost, I was, as you were talking, I was thinking like, did Quinn and Fionn even really need to be, and Jeremy for that matter, even need to be in the movie? I mean, they could have been written out and still made it would have been tighter if he took that. But I mean, the threat that Quinn poses to Malcolm is, I did like that part, but he's just there for like tension and, you know, ultimately violent release, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what Gareth is all about. So I guess there's that. But
yeah. I mean, you could have told this story without them, but it introduced the good wrinkles. But I kind of feel like, what if Jennifer wasn't there? Like, what if he just was like sent to the island? And I don't know. I feel like there are lots of avenues to have tightened this movie up.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're right. Jennifer didn't need to be there at all.
Yeah, no, she was worthless to the movie.
Yeah, they could have had any other reason for him to get, you know, any reason, you know, this is the land of Uwais, you know, and he could have as much as he wants or whatever. You know, I mean, there's a million reasons why he could have been lured to the island instead of having some dumbass sister that no one cares about.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jennifer.
It was great while it lasted, Jennifer.
If it's any consolation, you get off the island with 2 other ladies.
Yeah, and some rowboat guy who's there. Like, they didn't really explain that, but, you know, it's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
to the Andrea Fionn, and some lady that had like an upturned nose, and the rowboat guy.
Yeah, I guess that was Unsinkable Molly or something.
Who magically shows up in every movie that has a boat.
Yeah. Off in the distance, you could see one lady on a very large door that could easily fit 2 people on it.
Oh my God. She's got her hoop skirt on.
Yeah. When they land on the island, my initial thought was, oh my God, it's like Jurassic Park, but Puritans.
It's Jurassic Pork.
Yeah. So, John, if you had to rate this movie on a scale of 0 loathsome things to 5 loathsome things, with 5 being like all the way masterpiece and 0 being like, why would anyone ever make or admit to having worked on this movie, how would you rate this?
I will rate this movie with a 3.3.
Oh, dang.
For the same reason that I gave, was it The Ritual that I gave 4.5 or something like that, or something I gave a half. And the reason why I gave a half was because that extra half was like halfway towards an extra number that the movie just didn't quite deserve. And so like the halfway point would have been just about right. This for me should be just below that halfway point. Mm-hmm. so like a 3.4, it's like better than a 3, but not halfway better. I don't know. What do you think? If you had to rate this movie between a giant gulch full of meat shit, all the way on up to a liberated fertility goddess that takes the form of a face actor, what would you give this movie?
Oh man, I love I'll go ahead and say Blood Gulch, my favorite Halo map. So that was a good
yes.
This might be the furthest apart we've ever been on a movie. I gave this you said 3.3?
Yeah, I think it was 3.3 or 4.
I don't know.
We'll say 3. We're going with 3.
I gave this a 4.0. It's like, it was really good. The acting was spot on. Mm-hmm. The action was brutal and intense and enjoyable. It was just those long stretches of boredom that didn't need to be there. I mean, I loved it whenever he broke out of it, and maybe that was part of his plan, but it was just too long. It was too boring to like knock all the way up into like masterpiece area. Yeah. But I loved what it did with the genres. I love that possible like tipping over from folk horror into eco horror. I feel like it's a solid contribution in those areas. In some ways, it's kind of rote and cliche, but like the things that he brought to it were so unique. Like you don't see a lot of really good fight choreography in horror movies, so that was a really cool thing for him to bring over into the genre, and I enjoyed seeing that. So yeah, it's not a masterpiece, but it's very enjoyable, very watchable. So I gave it a 4, and out of the two of us, that's a 7.3 out of 10. It does not crack the top 10, but it's still pretty good. That's a C.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I like that movie. I mean, I've seen it several times before we even did this. I mean, like, one of the things I really liked was the way that the goddess was, like, like the way she looked and the way she was presented on screen. And I liked that a lot. I liked that she didn't speak English. They had to subtitle what she said, which was cool. So we're probably the only ones who know what she's even saying. And Baseball Head, I didn't get. It just seemed like a Silent Hill outcast.
Yes, I was like, okay, yeah. Silent Hill, Slipknot, he's just here.
Slipknot, yeah.
Yeah.
He was the organ grinder for Slipknot.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's right. Slipknot, Jesus. I mean, so there were things like that, some little bit of missteps here and there, but I mean, overall, I really enjoyed it. I think the set design was amazing. The costumes were great. The actors were good. They had enough money, I think, to make the movie that he wanted to make. So, if he had issues with the film, I don't think it was necessarily financial. So that's good. I mean, I think the money was well spent.
Yeah.
Some movies, as we know, so many Hollywood movies have more than enough money and they still don't know what to do with it. But so in that respect, the film was beautiful. I mean, it was shot well. All the technical stuff, I think it was, pretty good quality. Something was a little bit lacking in the depth of the storyline. And just some of the stuff that we talked about, I think, were the things that got me to knock off a little bit. But having said that, I mean, I would definitely recommend it. I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch for sure. And even watching again and again, which you kind of have to do, like you said.
Yeah, because it's you can very easily miss something, and be confused. But then again, you can watch it carefully multiple times and still be confused by some things.
That's true.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like a convoluted mess, but at the same time, it's you do have to kind of pay attention, or because shit happens fast.
Yeah,
at times.
Yeah. And you mentioned that it was like him getting to make the kind of movie that he wanted to make, and I was thinking about like myself and talking about like the editing and stuff like that. I think it is good that he got to do this, because if you had like a typical Hollywood editing job done to this movie, they probably would have like cut it to be less awesome and just all boring. Like if you'd gotten a Weinstein after this, it would have been terrible.
Yeah, because they would have assumed, okay, if we're going to make this an actor-y movie, we need to pursue the intellectual people who don't want to see the violence. And if we're going to go with violence, we need to pursue the idiots and take out all the acting, but it was a mix of both, which was great. It was kind of refreshing to see that.
Yeah. It's pretty good. And I'm looking forward to the things that he's doing next. That other one, Undying Love, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to see that.
That does look good.
Yeah. Havoc, maybe, probably.
Right.
Yeah. It's like Tom Hardy, Timothy Olyphant, Forrest Whitaker, maybe. That sounds like a like the boring but exciting title 1994 movie that you've all forgotten about already. Like that sounds like that kind of a movie.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Oh.
Safe Haven is my favorite of the VHS skits.
Oh, from VHS 2?
Yeah, it's he co-directed and co-wrote it. That's what it is.
What a little co-asshole.
It was it's the cult one with the crazy doomsday cult in Indonesia.
I don't know.
There's the film crew goes out to shoot they're like news crew or something like that, and they're going to investigate this weird cult, and they just happen to get there right when like the doomsday time that this cult has predicted has arrived, and all this crazy shit starts happening, and like this demon god comes and like attacks the compound, and it's he co-wrote and co-directed it with Tijo. I'll never be able to say his name, but it's what's his name? Timo Tajanto. He's an Indonesian director who made a movie called Macabre.
Oh, yeah.
It is fucking great. It's like a super ridiculous takeoff on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And he's a really talented director. So yeah, that's my favorite of those movies. Wow.
No, I haven't watched VHS or VHS 2 since we worked together. So I have no recollection of it at all. I don't remember anything. I'll have to rewatch it though.
I literally went back just to watch that one. It's the one. Do you remember the one where all the guys, like there's all these in the building and they all pull their gun out at the same time and shoot themselves in the head?
No.
Like, you don't remember that? Oh man, it's so good.
I don't remember anything. I have the worst memory, John. Like, what's been good about this is I've had to like pay attention to movies, and now I'll remember some things, whereas before I would be like, I just watched it, I have no idea what you're talking about.
What is this you are talking about?
Yeah, Annihilation, never heard of her.
Wrecked him, damn near killed him.
But yeah, man. It's really good. I went back and I rewatched The Raid, Redemption, because I was watching this and I just always want to watch that movie.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And, yeah, it was great. I'm still very sad that there will not be The Raid 3, but that's okay, I guess. Gareth. He's also working on a Marvel movie, I think. Like,
oh, is he really?
Yeah, like some obscure superhero movie. Let me pull that up real quick.
It says here that the tincture taken by Thomas throughout the first half of the movie is likely laudanum or tincture of opium, which is comprised of opium powder and alcohol.
Yeah, brandy usually, right?
Yeah, implied in the opening scene that his addiction is why he's thought to be dead prior to being located to help with his sister's rescue, whatever.
Oh yeah, he's rumored to be directing the Deathstroke movie, which is DC, not Marvel.
Right. Oh, okay. Deathstroke, their version of what's his nuts?
Deadpool. Yeah. So he's the rumored director of the Deathstroke movie, and then he's also working on a movie called Blister, which no one knows anything about other than that he is directing and writing it.
Huh. Okay. It's all secret-y, I guess.
The summary for it is plot kept under wraps, described as an action drama.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So this movie was shot in Wales mostly, on a set built at a place called Margam Park in Neath Port Talbot, Wales.
Upon Thames. Sounds very fancy. Let's never go there. I will say it did look like at any given point you might see a porg show up. Oh, yeah. I've got a trivia question.
Ooh.
Do you want to answer a horror movie related trivia question?
Sure, I can try.
Okay. It's complex.
Okay.
All right, trivia time. I don't know. In 1994, Wisdom Tree, a Christian video game developer, released the video game Super 3D Noah's Ark for the Super Nintendo. It was a 3D first-person shooter using the same engine as Wolfenstein 3D, but you played Noah traversing the Ark and shooting food at hungry animals, mostly goats. The game was not an official Super Nintendo game, and it was only available at Christian bookstores. The cartridge was unique because the only way that you could play it was you had to plug a real Super Nintendo game into the top of the cartridge. And this was actually the first game to bypass the Super Nintendo copy restriction, where you couldn't play like pirated Super Nintendo games. And this was the first one to bypass that. And originally, it was going to have a different kind of strange cartridge because the property that the game was in required a fuller color spectrum. So what they were going to do is they were going to put a extra processor in the game cartridge so that it would make the Super Nintendo game work better and it would have a better color palette. But they decided that this wasn't going to be affordable for customers. And by the time that this was going to come out, Doom had already come out as a video game, and they felt like it had overshot anything that they'd be able to do. So they, even though they had spent $50,000 on the license, they decided to scrap the license. They were also worried that maybe it wouldn't fit in with their image as a Christian video game company. So the trivia question is, John, what 1980s horror movie franchise did Wisdom Tree pay $50,000 to license for the game that would eventually become Super 3D Noah's Ark?
Oh God, I don't even have the slightest clue. They paid someone for the rights to use this idea?
They paid the movie studio or whoever owned the rights. They paid them $50,000 for the license to make a video game of that movie franchise.
Oh, okay. And I have no clue. It's a Christian shooter?
It's a Christian game developer. They ended up turning it into a Noah's Ark game, but it was originally going to be based on a 1980s horror franchise somehow. If you'd like, I can do it Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style with 4 choices.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right. So I'll say it again. What 1980s horror movie franchise did Wisdom Tree pay $50,000 to license for the game that would eventually become Super 3D Noah's Ark? Was it A, Halloween, B, A Nightmare on Elm Street, C, Hellraiser, or D, Sleepaway Camp?
Oh, wow. I didn't think Sleepaway Camp would be in there. That's crazy. That's a whole different world, that movie.
Yes.
Wow. I would have guessed that it would have been, I would have guessed maybe Friday the 13th, but I'm that's not there. So wow, Sleepaway Camp. That's a weird one. I wouldn't have guessed that either. I'm just going to go with Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, I'm sorry. It was actually Hellraiser. The guy that was in charge of this Christian game development company was a huge fan of the Hellraiser movie, and I guess maybe even the sequel. And he paid the studio $50,000 to license it to make the Hellraiser video game.
Wow. So that the movie was going to be called Hellraiser?
The game.
The game, yeah.
Yeah. Probably something dumb like Super 3D Hellraiser, or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but then and that was it. Like, he wanted a richer color palette because in order to capture the Hellraiser goodness and not just have everything be gray. And so that's why they were going to go as far as to putting extra processing units in each cartridge. But eventually, they just let the $50,000 license expire, and they went with Noah's Ark, where you shoot food at goats.
Wow, that is so weird. What a weird piece of trivia that is.
Yes, I'd been our last one, we were talking about how the dude's directing a Hellraiser TV series. So I started doing a little bit of basic Wikipedia research on Hellraiser, and I came across in other media, and it talked about this video game, and it got me on this whole thing of there was going to be a Christian game studio was going to release the first Hellraiser video game, but then didn't.
Makes me think of those. That's so weird. It makes me think of those the ET game that was such a bomb that they just put it in a landfill.
Yes. I think there was also a Lord of the Rings video game that was broken, and you couldn't beat the first level. So it was just nothing. You played so
it's some of the first level, and that's it.
Yep, that's it. Then you're stuck.
Wow, that's fantastic.
All right, so that was trivia time.
Yeah, I liked it.
If you have a question for us to answer on the air, or a trivia question for one of us to try to guess the correct answer of, you can send that to us. Reach out to us, let's see, on Twitter or Instagram at Loathsome Pod, Facebook at Loathsome Things, or you can email us. And I even checked what our email address is this time, John. Our email address is loathsomethings@gmail.com.
Yes.
That one will actually get the message to us.
I like it.
Yes. So send us your questions, send us your trivia questions, and tell us what you think is cool about this movie, about his other movies, or about other movies adjacent to this movie.
And give us some reprimandations.
Yeah, reprimand us on Utunes and Spotify.
Ooh.
Yeah, Spotify. Not in trouble with anyone right now. No one angry with Spotify about any reason.
Nope, just a fine, wholesome, family-friendly organization.
What a great company that's just going about the business of taking over podcasts from regular folks and doing great things with it.
Because if there's anything that a listening audience likes, it's to get something free and then later be forced to pay for it.
Yes. John, do you have any final notes for the nice people before we depart and go our own ways and talk about other things with other folks that aren't our listeners?
There's so many great horror movies out there that you can access so many different ways, including spending very little money. If you've got an internet access, or you've got, one of the interface type devices, like the one that starts with an R, that allows you to watch various different streaming channels and things like that. If you have a Roku, or you've got Amazon,
there it is.
Apple TV, or whatever the devices.
Chromecast.
Yeah, if you got a Chromecast, and you have a decent internet connection, you have access to thousands and thousands of horror films, including some of the very best ever made, including all kinds of schlock. I mean, you'll keep yourself busy for a lifetime with this stuff. I recommend it highly.
Oh yeah. That, honestly, my favorite is the free streaming services where you just have to watch really, really shitty commercials in order to watch awesome horror movies for free. Tons of stuff that I've never heard of, and then I watch it and it's great.
Last night, like when my kids come over, we watch, that a lot of times they'll want to watch a horror movie because they know I like horror movies, so they want to watch them with me.
Aww.
So like last weekend, I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre with my son, which was amazing. Yes. And last night I watched Poltergeist with my daughter. And I have to say that after watching that movie, there's a lot of gelatin in that movie.
Yeah, it's real sticky.
There's like that whole thing where the rope, where they pull her through the house, through the portal in the ceiling, and the mom and the daughter come through, and they're just completely covered in like pink gelatin. It's disgusting. That's a goopy movie.
It is very goopy, and it's pretty good. It's very Spielbergy.
It is very Spielbergy. Craig T. Nelson is awesome. He really carries that movie for me.
Yeah.
And then of course when they bring Once Or Nuts, this house is clean.
Yes. It's amazing.
She's fantastic. But that movie's entertaining. Some of the effects are pretty bad, but
yeah.
When the guy peels his skin off in the bathroom, like one of the paranormal investigators, and you can see the person, like their arms reaching around the prosthetic head, like very awkwardly trying to make it look like it's their own head.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's what Spielberg money gets you.
Yeah, it's that part. That's not a great part, but it's a fun romp. It's no Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hey, there's a question. Did you watch the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I tried to. I started it and it was so bad, I just stopped.
Yeah.
There's a scene where he's like goes in an ambulance with his aunt or whatever the fuck she's supposed to be to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I'm done. I can't do this. This is so stupid.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That means that you didn't even get to the part where there is a bus full of social media influencers. It's like, I really feel like the director is holding an old grudge that's kind of out of date now. He's like, oh, you know what people love? People love Leatherface just murdering a bus full of young people that actually do have money and are Instagramming about it. Oh yeah, that's what the people want nowadays.
Yeah, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
If you want to watch a good bus fight, watch Nobody. That movie is amazing.
Nobody. I'm gonna have to look that up.
It's the Bob Odenkirk movie. The Revenge movie.
Yes.
It's so good.
It is. I have to see it. It looks really good. I love Bob Odenkirk already, and I've heard that the soundtrack to it is actually pretty good.
The whole thing, it is. The whole thing is great. Don't read too much about it, and it's just nice to just take the story in as it is, because they do a really good job in the trailer of not giving anything away, and making you think things that aren't necessarily true until you watch the movie or aren't exactly clear. Like they try to hint at stuff that then you watch the actual movie and it's like, oh, it's really good. And the violence in that movie is insane. There's awesome. There's like a 10-minute bus fight with no music, just fighting sounds, and it is gruesome.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I am very surprised that out of all of the Mr. Show people, he's the one that has ended up with the biggest respectable Hollywood career. That I was not expecting that. I mean, of course, Tom Kenny's got that SpongeBob money, but But Bob Odenkirk's just kicking ass now in his elder age.
Yeah, no kidding. He's like the boss now, and they'll definitely make a sequel. They've set it up.
Oh, nice. Oh, maybe we'll get Nobody versus John Wick at some point.
I know, it's the same director.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I have to watch it then.
Christopher Lloyd is in it.
Oh, yes. Really? I thought he was like basically dead.
You think he is at part of the movie, but it's amazing.
Okay, that's awesome. The last time I saw him, that he was in this dumb movie about like, I am not a serial killer. Yeah. It's like, oh, Lloyd, this is where you came back for it? No, man.
I thought that movie was okay. You didn't like it?
It wasn't for me. I used to listen to a podcast by authors, and one of the authors is the guy that wrote the story that thing was based on, and so I just heard him talk about it too much, I think.
Oh yeah,
and he was so like my baby about it, and so I was just like, all right, I pre-hate this.
Yeah, fuck your baby.
Good quote, Pool. All right, y'all, go watch horror movies and don't be shitty about Ukraine.
Yep.
Bye.